Today I'd like to discuss Social Security. Now, statistics are that 20% of the population will use Social Security temporarily at some point in their life. It also used for people of diminished capacity, retarded people, and the severely mentally ill. I agree with and understand the design for these uses. Where I have an issue is with the bigoted use of the system, especially when homosexuality was removed from the DSM over 30 years ago. I also disagree with the use as a profit center for special interests. Now I'd like to give you a little background. In the 60s, GE and Lockheed Martin released internal policy that would be considered neoliberal. This policy was counter to liberal government programs and probably the budgetary encroachment that comes with liberal social programs. This eventually became the Washington Consensus and Washington Consensus II. These programs were touted and taken around the globe. These were basically low regulation, free market principles to encourage growth. However, there were market failures with these. Namely, the bottom 5% never improved, and the size of the military was relative in proportion. These were addressed by Washington Consensus II, but the U.S. never took these recommendations. Also, around this time, with the privatization, which was one of the recommendations, Lockheed Martin acquired Aspen Systems, who controls the customer service portion of Social Security. Back to how this affects me. One of the interviews I went on, once in Washington while at Aspen Systems and as a customer service representative for Social Security. This was a typical interview, but as healthcare was touted, I made mention of this fact in the thank you email. Not that I wanted to have it misconstrued that I would be bringing any type of insurance with me. I never heard from them. However, shortly thereafter, I received another interview from another military contractor, during which there was a point with considerable questioning about missed employment on my application. Nope. Well, I cannot state for certain, but shortly thereafter, Bosch and Lomb was cited for accounting irregularities, as I attempted without success to obtain my own records from this period without success. It is speculation that employment was reported in order to maintain the claim. Again, after being unsuccessful with the job search in DC, I went to Social Security and told them, hey, if you're going to keep cutting checks, just send them to me. Instead, I was told, go to work. I did that, as you can see in the narrative. Again, here I have an issue. Representative payees are only to be used when there is a spending issue. No drugs, no booze. No loose men. But there it is. The homo thing. Now our conversation will shift to hypocrisy. It really gets under my craw when people live in glass ivory towers and throw stones. But I find it quite hypocritical that a woman-headed military contractor would use its considerable clout when making arms deals to put forth its agenda while doing the contrary at home. To what am I referring? Well, it seems that there is considerable arms trade with the UAE and Saudi, where there has been considerable emphasis on expansion of women's rights and modernization. I agree with this. Any type of equality I think is good. However, there was a considerable consternation to the male leadership in those countries. Now, what I disagree with is that at the same time, here its Catholic Church was and is drifting back to its misogynistic self, taking other American denominations with it. Now, back to Social Security law. It is quite clear on spending of funds and accountability. Where is the money? A trust? A property? I should have ready access to these records. There also should be the ability for me to be notified of any use of the system, and I should be able to go and defend any type of action on my behalf. I've never been notified of this. I have considerable issue with this.